Hey, what's up, everybody? Video 44 coming at you with another video. All right, so walking out Franklin, figured I'd take the scenic route to the train station instead of stopping at the Western and Hollywood train station. I've been walking back this way, past my elementary school, just to get a little extra walking in. It's like 1:30, something like that. So, yeah, a little extra walk after getting everything I needed from the Target. I decided not to walk to Western and Sunset. I took the train straight to it and figured I'd do the walking on the way back. So that's what I'm doing. Nothing too serious, but I did want to talk about the Tyson fight last night. I guess you can call it a fight. And it's strange, man, because I thought I was going to miss it. You know, I saw some troll account yesterday during the Laker game say that Tyson had won the fight. And so I thought I missed it. I hit my boy up like, man, what happened? He's like, it ain't even started yet. And the funny thing about it was, you know, as the fight was supposed to start, it actually started an hour later. I guess it was supposed to start at 8, and it ended up starting like at 9. So I watched it, and, you know, I just felt like I was in denial like a lot of other people. I felt that Tyson would somehow win, but you're going up against a guy who's 27 years old. You know, and you're like 58, haven't been staying in shape. You just decided to get in shape after years and years and years of not doing really anything physical. I know he'd been drinking some, smoking a little bit or whatever. So it's like, you know, if he had been taking care of his body the entire time, I thought he might have given himself a better shot. But trying to just snap back into shape at that age, nah. And then you want to fight somebody half your age who's also training like he's supposed to be? Nah, that wasn't realistic, unfortunately. I thought his skills would be able to overcome dudes, but that wasn't real. So that was really what it came down to. I thought the guy put up a pretty solid display, to be honest with you. I thought he really, you know, paid homage at the end and bowed. I thought he was pulling his punches quite a bit, not hitting him very hard, not taking off on him like he could, and I think that's something to appreciate if you're rooting for Tyson, because it was apparent through like the first it didn't take but 3 rounds to understand that Tyson was in over his head with this guy. And so, you know, at any point that dude probably could have knocked Tyson out anytime he wanted to be honest with you. And he paid homage, he paid respect, and I thought that was really cool. I really did. So I walked away from it feeling at peace with the whole situation. Tyson lasted, he didn't get knocked out. And they made a big bag off of that. And something told me Tyson could probably use the money. I don't know what's going on in Tyson's life, but I'm sure it was a mighty bag that he got from this fight. Lots of money. So I'm sure that helped. That helped a lot, man. And, you know, I mean, it was good to see Tyson relive that moment. Get the crowd behind him, come out, and, you know, in his trunks and all of that. That's just an experience he probably thought he would never feel again. And, you know, so for that, I thought the bit of nostalgia was really good. But I hated seeing him getting hit like that, you know? I hated seeing him getting hit like that. So that's really what it was, man. Mike Tyson has come a long way from who he was in that ring. He had to face, according to what he had been saying in podcasts that I had listened to, he had to face some demons in order to even do this. So I can only imagine some of the thoughts that was going through his head. But he overcame it, secured his bag, got the crowd behind him as always. And I thought it was a great opportunity for him to be seen again in the light that he ultimately was born to be, which was a great heavyweight fighter. So, yeah, man, kudos to both of those guys. It was strange because, of course, myself, I'm a bald-headed black dude, same height, obviously much less weight, but like I see myself in him as I look at that fight, especially now that I didn't shave my face. I see it like in me. And I think about my own health and think about my expectations for my body in these times. Although I'm 18 years younger than him, you know, it's still a situation where I feel like I'm aging. You know, and it's like you really can't do what you used to be able to do. I'm working out every day, but it's like your body ain't shaping up like it used to. Muscle don't come on as quickly. Fat don't come off as fast, you know? And so, you know, it was a lot of reflecting on my own life and how things are going in my own life and looking at that. And as I went to sleep, I ended up having a dream that was pretty disturbing. a good friend of mine was homeless in my dream. And, you know, it was weird because, you know, it was like one of those situations where I was walking up randomly down the street somewhere out here in this area, I think somewhere around here. And I don't know how I got in connection with my friend, I have no idea. But, you know, he was essentially in the streets, of course. And, you know, I guess the gathering was there was some type of understanding that I had of what his situation had been. It was almost like I already knew what he had been through. I knew. And it was like a flashback situation when I saw him to what occurred. And I guess he had found himself getting fired because someone complained about him. I guess in the dream he had did something inappropriate with a female of some sort. And in the dream you could see, like, it was almost like there was a flashback to where he met the girls. There was like 4 of them standing with one another. And it was almost like I put myself in his shoes, so to speak. First person perspective, walking toward them. And in the dream skipped back to where he was at when he had all went bad. And, you know, he's essentially asking me to, like, you know, if there was anything I could do to help him. And my attitude was not very warm toward him. It was almost like, well, no, there's nothing I could do for you, but you shouldn't have did what you did. It was like I was almost judging him in the dream. It was like, you know, what you could have did was not try to whatever how that went. That would have said, it was like that was what I was saying to him. And I could smell him. And you know, working security, there's a distinctive smell that comes with some people who've been in the streets for a long time. And I was smelling that smell coming off of him. And it was like really like disgusting to me. And it was like at some point I ended up outside of my Wilshire apartment where I used to live after I moved out of Hollywood. And it was like he was coming up the stairs following behind me like he was going to go in the house with me. And it was that awkward space of me thinking, you know what, I don't want this man stinking up my house. I know he probably needs a shower, but I don't want him getting that first shower in my bathtub. Just a lot of that type of energy coming off of me. And I was thinking to myself, you know, that ain't how I want to be. Like, that's not the person I pride myself in being at all. Like, if somebody needs a shower, especially if I know them, I grew up with them or whatever, of course I want them to come in the house. I want them to be safe. Or at least I pride myself in thinking that's what I want for them. But like in the dream, I was like really standoffish, real like, nah, bro, you stink. Go somewhere, find yourself somewhere. Not really supportive, not really helpful. And I woke up like 5:30 in the morning. I'm gonna say somewhat disgusted with myself, but also reflective on the idea, like, okay, where's this path I'm on headed? Am I in a space where I could end up being in the street someday? Obviously, my situation is closer to that than I'd like to admit. But like, what path am I actually on? You know what I mean? You start considering your own situation. And mind you, my friend, of course, is my age. So in the dream, he looked older. You know, he looked like he had been run down by life. A few things went wrong and he never was able to get it right. That kind of thing. And it was like, you know, that's all it takes is a few things to go wrong, or a few bad mistakes, or a few missed opportunities. And a man could really find himself in a bad situation. And who knows who's going to help you? People you think love you to death, they may not be willing to help you. So it's almost like that's kind of what it was showing me. Like, you know, I gotta get back into being a little bit more focused about how I can, you know, plan some things out in my life that maybe I don't have in order. Because it's very easy to find yourself, especially in this situation, being in that situation. You know, and if not for the help of my family, I probably would be in that situation. So it was just a lot of reflecting on that, and I felt like that kind of aligned with what I was seeing in the fight, looking at Tyson and seeing how he had aged and how he wasn't the same anymore, and that whole thing just helped me understand, like, it's not as easy as you age, you know? As you age, it's harder to do certain things, not just physical things, but like get a job, find a mate, and all these things as your body starts to face Father Time. Things you take for granted as a younger person or as a middle age, I guess, person, when you start to get older, older comes fast. And I think about the last 15 years, 18 years, how quickly life has changed. I moved out of this place almost 30 years ago. So you figure, like, it feels like it's more time behind me than it's ahead of me. And difficulties lie ahead with your physical nature as your body ages. So for me, it's like, that really made me reflect, project forward, and just ultimately be in a mindset that I don't really find myself pleased with. You know what I mean? That's what I woke up feeling. You know, not at all very pleased with how that whole thing felt on any front at all. And so, you know, and the interesting thing is like, as I was telling you guys in my previous video, or maybe even this one, I don't remember if I said at the beginning of this video or not, but the room that I was in, the room that I'm now in, it smells funny in there. It smells like someone who was homeless may have been in there. You know what I mean? Someone who didn't shower very much, or, you know, may have been in the room that I'm now residing in. And so some of that smell that I was smelling in a dream might have been that smell right there. You know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know, man, just, you want to be better, and you want better for others, and you want better for yourself. I think is where I'm at with it. I want to be a better human being than I saw in that dream. I'm praying that my friend that I grew up with is in a much better situation than what I dreamed about. You know, and I'd like to think that I would help if he weren't, you know what I mean? Help more than I showed in the dream, that's for damn sure. And then I think back on when my homeboy Les was hitting me up, asking me to let him stay at my apartment before I left Lenox, like when I was getting evicted, waiting for the sheriffs to come. He said he wanted to come over that morning and shower. I'm like, bro, the sheriff's gonna be here to kick me out of my apartment. Like, I can't have you here. You're not even on the lease. I'm already in this situation. I'm not in a position to help you. And that's the moment that I reflect upon when I woke up this morning. Like, you know, that's kind of the energy you were giving this person in your dream. Like, you didn't want to help him. And somebody who's received so much help since then, that's not how I want to remember looking back on how I treated people, or it's not how I pride myself on being. You know, it kind of coincides with some of the stuff we were talking about in a few videos ago, maybe about 6 or 7 therapy sessions ago, where I mentioned that, you know, this Palestinian dude was getting on this black lady for only being supportive of his people when she felt like it could align one of our people in office. And now that, you know, a lot of people, including herself, who was displaying a representation of many, are saying they no longer supporting the Palestinian cause because the Palestinians didn't vote for Kamala Harris, and therefore they don't back black people. Like, if you equate it that way, you know, he was not feeling that. And how we had a conversation about reacting to that. I was reacting to that and essentially saying, you know, he had said something in that video that made a lot of sense to me, that a lot of times Westerners, no matter how good of a human being they are, they're still spoiled in the sense that they're not going to support anything that's going to inconvenience them. Or if they do willingly inconvenience themselves to support somebody else, it's like they expect to be praised for it. Or, you know, we've been coerced, or naturally, by way of our privilege, found ourselves in a space where even as good people, a good portion of us who believe when we're doing good, is still riddled in conditional contingencies, maybe. I don't know if that's the right word, but conditions that otherwise make us happy or at pleasure or at peace. I will help you, but not if it inconveniences me, that kind of thing. And I find that that's what that was in my dream that I was engaging in. Like, I know this shower can help my friend. He needs a place to stay. He's out on the street and he don't know where he's going, but he stinks, and I don't want him showering in my house, messing up my bathtub. You know what I mean? Like, smelling up my home. It's like, that's exactly what dude was getting on that lady's case for, that very energy right there. And I find that that's an area that I might not be as strong as I need to be. Now, for better or for worse, that's an area of growth that I see I need to find a way to be stronger in. I'm spoiled, you know, like literally spoiled to my own comfort. And everybody, you know, has their own thing to overcome. People who are spoiled have different levels of being spoiled. You know, not everybody's like that. Not everybody has this trait that I don't like in myself and maybe in others that I may see. We all got to overcome our own thing. And I think for me, I don't think that I awaken to the idea that I'm not that great of a human being in that way. That I too need to really be changing in that way. Held accountable for not being willing to always inconvenience myself for the betterment of someone who may need me to. And for all the good things that we talk about on this channel, there are still things within myself that I'm not in alignment with. Things that I'm used to doing in my day-to-day throughout the course of my 40 years that don't align with what it is I most appreciate in other people. You know, a lot of times when people identify things like this in themselves, it's almost like they can't believe that there's something wrong with them in a lot of cases. It's like it's almost hard for them to admit that they're crappy in certain areas, that they're not that great of a human being in certain areas. Like, I can identify what's wrong with you, but in me, I mean, I guess I can change. I guess there's aspect, you know what I mean? It's like they almost can't even admit it. And when they do try to admit it, it's like they try to soften it when they describe it. And that's what I'm trying my very best not to do. And if people got things wrong with them, things that they have to change about their character, things that they only slightly understand is wrong, that maybe they awaken to at some point and realize there's something wrong there. Or maybe they do those things for the right reasons and they're trying to fend off other things, so they just got to live with these things. That's kind of how that is for me as well. You know, growing up isolated with anxiety, you know, there's certain things that I don't want to inconvenience in myself because I think it may be a safety issue, or I may not display myself in my best light in the presence of others, and how self-conscious I may feel about that. You know, I like my space to myself so I can be myself, that kind of thing. Things that haven't been updated since changes have been made within myself. Practices that haven't even come about as a need to change until those circumstances come around, to which you see those problems still haven't, you know, necessarily been worked out despite your wisdom aligning with new ways of doing things. I think it's a lot of that going on with me. And I've been in a situation where I haven't had an address of my own for like a year now. And there's a lot of ideals and things that I align with and things that I'm comfortable with that don't have that experience attached to it. So at some point, there needs to be an update or an upgrade in how I operate, and how I view things, and how I would handle certain scenarios. Just as recently as when my friend asked me to shower at his house, I hadn't experienced all the stuff I've been experiencing in the last year. And so when I look back on that, I have a different respect for not having a place to stay, not knowing where you're going to stay, coming to somebody needing help and hoping they give it to you, not knowing if you're going to get it. The Lord put me through some things that made me look back on that and say, see, now I'm not going to look at that the same way. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the conditioning of my mind will allow for me to feel any differently. It's in regards to what it is that I feel would inconvenience me heavily. Now that I would sit in that inconvenience, I may have a little more respect for why it may be a great idea for my reputation to sit in that inconvenience. But that I would be any less inconvenienced, I think, is what I'm trying to express. I don't think I would. I still don't necessarily want to do some of the same things that I didn't want to do then. I just respect that if I did do those things, I'd probably have a better reputation and a better way of looking at myself. So that's what I wanted to admit and say to myself and say to you all. And I think it's very important that a person who wants to point at others and see things that are wrong with their ideals and things they believe in, and, you know, point out the fact that people are in denial about certain things or do things that poorly reflect themselves and haven't changed, and shame on them for not. I think the only way you really hold credibility is if you can do the same thing when you look at yourself. The only way you can convince them that you should be someone they should even remotely listen to is if you're stronger than them, in a sense that you can point out your own faults before anyone else gets a chance. That's the credibility I need in order to continue doing what it is I'm doing. Otherwise, I'm just a pointing finger. A contradicting entity looking to get on everybody else for their wrongdoings while simultaneously not seeing myself as anyone who's ever made a mistake. I think it's the essence of what's wrong with a lot of people right today. think it's the essence of what's wrong with some of the people we talk about on this channel in that way. That they are seemingly incapable of looking at things that they're conditioned to agree with and see that it reflects poorly upon them, and furthermore may subconsciously affect their confidence when they look in the mirror. These are the type of things that we want to have people just at least, at the very least, fathom that this is something that can be done. You can look at something you're conditioned to do, see that it doesn't equate to good reputation for you, see it doesn't equate to whatever it is that you want to see add up in your life, and then proceed to inconvenience yourself with the change necessary to see better in yourself. And then maybe that doesn't come overnight, but maybe it does, depending on how intentional you are in doing things the right way. Because there's a lot of people who are going to have to go against things that they believe in order to do the right thing. There's a lot of people who are going to have to ignore people who agree with them in order to see the consequences that they want to see in regards to what it is that they hope to believe in. They got to change those actions and those beliefs around so that they can see the consequences of the life that they want to see. And how difficult that can be, but how possible it is just the same. And so that's what it is, man. That's what it's about for me. I just want to put that seed out in the air and tell people it is possible to see something wrong with your own conditioning and things that you believe in that ultimately yield you poor results, or you may see down the pipeline may not necessarily form the way you want it to. And you can do something about it. You can look at it and say, it's not the worst thing in the world to look at yourself and say, I need to change this about myself. And maybe I don't have anyone around me who's going to see that. Everyone around me behaves this way, and there's no retort to the behavior, but the consequences just the same are not favorable to me. If I keep doing this that way, just like everyone around me, we're not going to be happy, and I see it coming. That kind of thing, you know what I mean? That's needed in this world. In some areas that people are not doing that, that's needed. And so if I can be an example of that in the smallest way, I think it can plant the seed that good things can be possible when one looks at themselves and holds themselves accountable without even anyone else doing so, without anybody else actually being in place to do it. Lord knows there are many people that agree with you that it's okay to do things that are self-destructive. And maybe you've never been taught how not to be. But maybe you had a dream that the consequences of being that way end up bad for you. How do you go against that community of people that continue to do things that they shouldn't do, that you know they shouldn't do, and there's a single soul around to tell you not to do it? That's the example. That's the point. Because there's a lot of people a part of stuff that they know to themselves is no good for them or no good for their community, and they're gonna have to be the first person to make that seed planted in that community. You're gonna have to be the first one to say, yo, we gotta stop doing this because I see where it's headed, I've been shown where it's headed, or what have you. And so that's what it is, man. You hold yourself accountable, you point out that something may be wrong, you accept that many people have a lot wrong with them and you are not special in that way. And that if you do something to change that way in you, you can be an example of how they can do the same thing and how necessary that is, man. How very necessary that is in so many walks of life. So that's pretty much what I got to say, man. Hope I helped. Got a long way to go. Got to change certain things. Got to accept certain things. Got to be held accountable for certain things. May even have to see certain things play out bad so I change. But hopefully the Lord can help you with that so that it's not necessary. BL44, I thank y'all for watching.